Howdy everyone, welcome back to our growing garden. I hope you're ready to hang out, relax, and grow ourselves a little bit together. My name's Crystal. It's nice to meet y'all. This is my second take recording this because I was definitely rushing my words. I don't know. I am excited to record this, but I am still a little nervous. And I think that was making me talk way too fast, especially for this form of media. I think slowing down, enunciating what I'm saying is probably a little important. That being said, I am trying something new this week, and I'm writing myself a prompt to use. Maybe that's what everyone else does for all of their videos or podcasts or episodes of anything. But honestly, if I'm being so real, I kind of just assumed that everyone pulled their talking points from some never-ending bag of knowledge that they just already have in their mind, ready to go on a whim. I definitely could do some light research into how to make a podcast, I'm sure. But I feel like that takes away from the fun of learning how to do this. And it makes it feel more like a chore or work than just something fun or a hobby or like a format to connect with others. I want this to feel a little bit more genuine because I think that's really important to me for what I'm trying to get across here. I've definitely been overthinking certain things about this podcast because it feels a little bit more professional, I guess, to me than if I were to sit down and do some cross stitch or some painting. So I'm kind of accidentally putting a little bit of me into it, and it's coming across a little corporate, and I don't want to do that. I want to remind myself we can do anything we want here. We can grow, we can change sections of the podcast, we can add things depending how people receive them. And I am slowly discovering the direction I want to take these videos. I am going to be posting on YouTube still. So if you like watching somebody draw, you like chibi art, I will still be posting my commission work there with the podcast as the background. And I should be posting to Spotify, I guess Apple Podcasts too, wherever else podcasts live on the internet. I'm not entirely sure. So, I hope you are ready for a little bit of a bumpy ride as we figure out the groove of things here. But honestly, if there's one thing about me is I am definitely spontaneous and probably a little chaotic, but I like to think of it as a good thing. I am definitely passionate, and I kind of made this on that passion and whim of just, I don't know, chasing the idea that I've had as an abstract thought for honestly a few years now and just putting it into action. I'm going to be doing my best for y'all to find entertaining and enriching topics for us to get in together. I've been mulling over in my mind what I'm calling the pillars of this series, essentially. The main things from my heart that I want to put out here is gratitude, growth, and goals. Each episode, I'm going to have, like, I don't want to say standard sections, but like maybe that's it. Each episode is going to have sections. We're going to have something that we are grateful for the week. I'll share a story of something that happened to me that I'm grateful for. I would love if y'all let me know something that you are grateful for or something that made you happy this week. No matter how small it is a wonderful thing to share. I also want to put out some goals that we can all work towards together and share in that goal to know that you're not alone working on it and to see what growth we want to see in ourselves. And honestly, acknowledge the growth that you already have, and you deserve to acknowledge that on the journey that we are taking in life. I was really trying to decide whether or not I should just post this as a podcast only or also use it on my videos, and I think I'm going to do both. It is so frustrating in life when there are so many choices, that so many avenues you can take, and there's no wrong one. And it's kind of impossible to know what is the best one, because honestly, maybe there is no best choice. Life. So I'm just going to call this a series for now instead of a podcast, since I am also posting it on YouTube, and it feels kind of very different. I feel like a podcast is not something on YouTube, but maybe that's just my narrow mind. Let me know if I should just call this a podcast instead of a series. I don't know. All right, the first section we're going to have together is our gratitude section. This is just going to be sharing a story that happened during the week, that it's something that made me happy, essentially. Something I'm grateful for. Just depends. This story is just something I wasn't expecting. It was very silly. It made me smile. On my way into work the other day, I stopped by just 7-Eleven to grab some water and a yerba mate. I might be addicted to those. I love them so much. But I was waiting in line to check out, and there was a lady in front of me who was standing there with her 2 children. As they were approaching the counter to pay for their, I forget what they had. They were paying for their items. One of the kids hopped backwards in shock and just said, "Spider," in a panic. And the mom looked over to him and calmed him down and was like, "That's not a spider. It's just a fly. It's okay." And as the kid kind of settled down and walked back up to the counter, he asked the cashier in the most polite voice I think I've ever heard a little kid say, or a little kid use. And he goes, "Excuse me, sir, is that your pet fly?" And honestly, I was taken aback. It was really silly to hear a kid say that. Now, if you know me, I don't have kids. I don't normally interact with children on a regular basis, especially working at a bar. And kids really do say the silliest things, apparently. It made the cashier smile, and I definitely laughed. So, I don't know. It just really lightened the mood, and it was really funny, especially hearing the mom say to the kid, Are you serious right now?" That just brightened my day, honestly. I went to work and I shared that with my partner, and that was kind of great. And honestly, this was a pretty rough week for us with our move and working so many hours in a day. Oh my goodness. It was just really nice to have some random silly thing kind of cut through the seriousness of the day, just to kind of remind you everything's going to be chill, everything's going to be fine, even though it's a hard moment. It doesn't always have to be a hard moment. So I was really thankful that that happened at that time. And now I'm going to be getting into the topic of this week. I guess I'll call it our weekly highlight. I don't know. That is another thing I'm absolutely overthinking. But the groove I wanted to go with, things you wish your mom taught you. This week, we're going to highlight respecting yourself. I've really had an eye-opening moment this week when I was chatting with my partner. Sometimes, honestly, other people can see things that for some reason we are just completely blind to ourselves. And talking about things really does help and give you clarity. I've had my goal. Now, I don't remember exactly what my goal was, since I didn't write down any of my previous episodes. I don't remember the exact wording, and I'm not going to go re-listen to my old episodes, or I think I'm going to get a little self-conscious. So, as best as I remember, my goal was to not speak negatively of others in any way. Now, because we're still getting to know each other in this series, I'm kind of worried that that comes off like I'm talking smack about people or talking poorly about people. I just found myself complaining about small things too often for my personal taste. So after a situation happened and being asked why I didn't say something to that person when something that they did was annoying me, I found myself answering that it was my problem that I was annoyed. Their actions weren't the problem, it was me. And I really realized that by thinking that way, I was just invalidating my own feelings, and I didn't even consider in that moment that I should say something because I didn't even consider that my feelings were worth something. They were worth standing up for, essentially. You know, perhaps at work, it's just you and another peer working on a shared task. Or maybe even in school, you're partnered up with one other person or a group of people to complete an assignment. When you feel you're not sharing the load of the work equally in either way, it's really emotionally and mentally draining. I could be physically draining too, depending, if you're doing physical labor at work. It's just draining to you. And it's quite the pattern to get caught up into worrying about the reaction that other people will have if we practice protecting our peace and respecting our feelings. I think that holds at least myself back from reacting the way that I wish I would react in situations, because I am worried, what if this person gets angry at me? What if they say something even more mean to me? And I think I'm realizing that other people's feelings or desires are just as important, and they're not more important than mine. Maybe you've been like me, where you haven't really had the opportunities to learn these things in a healthy way, to express your emotions in a safe environment. And it can make it really uncomfortable as an adult to learn those skills to communicate with people and to express your emotions and communicate your emotions. I think my first solution that I had come up with when I was speaking to my partner about just a situation was I had come up with not thinking of my own feelings in those moments and thinking of it as helping somebody else who might have the same feelings as me. And honestly, it felt way more comfortable not to have to validate my own feelings. Standing up for others seems like a no-brainer. It's a valid and almost noble thing to do. And honestly, I was kind of blinded by the growth that I have made so far to not see that there was still more growth that could be had here. Things like an unbalanced task or people who didn't care for me never really bothered me before, simply because I didn't really respect myself enough for it to get to me. If someone at work, for example, was slacking off, I would just simply pick up that slack and think of it as being a better worker. Honestly, sometimes, if I'm being so honest, I would do it in a petty way of thinking, oh, I'm a better worker than this person, so I feel better about myself by picking up their slack. If I felt like I was being wronged at work, honestly, I would simply ignore it in any productive way. Maybe I would vent about it to a friend or a partner, but I would never actually take any actions to remedy my problems. And okay, I'm not sharing this podcast with my partner just because I'm a little embarrassed about it I don't know, I just am. But If they ever listen to this and they hear this part, I know they're going to be screaming at the screen like, yes, I've been trying to tell you this forever, and now it's just clicking. And yes, now it is just clicking for me. Now, I'm sure maybe you're thinking, I might just lack the courage or the motivation to stand up for myself. But honestly, that's really not it. Just to give you some insight, this is something that happened at one of my old jobs that I feel comfortable talking about simply because, honestly, I don't think the company even exists anymore. There was a lot of layoffs at the end of my time there, so I think it might have gone under. Not that I'm going to say the name of the place anyway, but at my old office job, we had recently hired quite a few new team members. Super awesome, right? Totally nothing wrong with that. Maybe about 5 new people, I think, to our team of like only 8. So it was a pretty big deal. Our original team of 8 people was in charge of training these new people. And of course, they were not compensated in any way for taking their time training these new staff members while still being expected to meet our daily quota that we had for work. It was a very, I don't want to say numbers-oriented job, but we had very specific tasks. We were timed down to almost the minute that we would get these tasks done. So it was a pretty big deal to keep up the pace of work, especially when you're training somebody, you know how hard that can be. But whispers had started after the first day that we had the new staff members with us, that they were getting paid more than all of us. Not by a few cents, but like by a few dollars. Now, there was never any talk of like potential raises or any compensation for us who were currently already there. So it's not like we had heard about it or like it was going to be okay. You know, it seemed like it was not going to be okay. And after a few days of concerns growing with everyone that maybe we were getting replaced by these new staff members. Oh, sorry, a little motorcycle decided to say hello there. I think that might have come through. But after a few days of growing concerns, like, are we going to lose our jobs? What's going on? I had taken it upon myself to request a meeting with my supervisor to discuss this. And I mentioned how everyone's getting worried and uneasy about their job security, and that, like, if these new staff members who are doing the same exact job as us, who have less experience than us, are being paid significantly more than us, then, like, are y'all going to match our wage to theirs now? I know what you're thinking. That sounds really reasonable, especially, you know, doing the same exact job and everything. A really great chance for our supervisor to, you know, do some team building, put everyone's mind at ease. No. I was kind of told, don't talk about pay anymore or you're going to get written up. And we had a little meeting with our supervisor where they told us we're not allowed to talk about our pay with each other anymore, or people are going to get in trouble. Yeah. That was not the best job that I have had. That is for sure. But, I mean, it was really fun work. Really toxic work environment. All that to say, I am absolutely okay with standing up and speaking up for when it matters. But for some reason, not to myself. And maybe you relate to that. I think that I've learned that it's really important to stand up, not only for others, but to acknowledge my own feelings, for you to acknowledge your own feelings. I have grown enough to know that my time and effort matters. And it should be respected. And that it should be respected. So when I do have to pick up the slack for extra work, it really weighs on my mind now, and I feel an amount of like annoyance or disappointment. Yet I have not grown enough in my self-respect to take the actions for my feelings. I've only just come to allow myself to feel them. And while I have grown, there is still room to grow more. And I think that is important growth for us all to have. I think some really good ways to get comfortable respecting yourself is to start small. If you haven't gotten comfortable with it yet, ask yourself, what emotion are you feeling right now? And that might seem really silly if you have great emotional regulation or understanding with yourself, but not all of us do. And sometimes it's kind of hard to narrow down what you're truly feeling. I think it's important not to judge yourself about it, but really take a moment to understand your feelings. Are you hurt by somebody's action? Well, why are you hurt by their action? Are you sad about what they did? Take a moment and think, would telling this person that their actions made you feel sad allow them to avoid that behavior in the future? As scary as it can be, and if you're not ready to, you absolutely don't need to tell people. It's up to you. You don't have to tell them right now that something they did hurt you. But take a moment and think, what productive thing could come from telling them that their actions are hurtful? And I want to remind you, always remember to act in kindness for yourself and also for others in this situation. Don't start nitpicking people's attitudes or mannerisms simply because they don't serve you. You need to make space for growth, to respect your feelings, and make space to see the growth that you both could have if whatever problem you're having no longer existed. Being respectful to yourself does not mean being disrespectful to somebody else. And if you are trying to resolve a problem, do it with kindness in your heart. I think, at least for me personally, when there's a problem and you are feeling brave enough to stand up for yourself and say something, it can almost be enticing to do it a little snippy or a little snarky maybe, just because it's almost like the accumulation of all the times you haven't stood up for yourself kind of weighing on that. But honestly, at that point, that's on you that you never stood up for yourself. This is your time to do it in a healthy and helpful way. The manner in which we were raised really makes an impact on the way that we think and how our mindset develops. For me, I just happened to grow up learning that my feelings were not something to take into account, but desperately finding solutions to everything was something of great importance. Having years of my most impressionable mind shown that my feelings were irrelevant or even troublesome really left me as an adult feeling the same way subconsciously. It's going to take time and effort, but this is one of my major goals for this year. Challenging and even discovering the way that I subconsciously think. It's my goal as well to hopefully help some of y'all grow in respecting yourself and being kind. That is going to wrap up our section of things you wish your mom taught you and lead us into our journaling segment. Each week, we are going to talk about what we want to journal based on the moon cycle, yes, and the topic of the week to kind of bring that together. I was going to call this our journaling challenge, but I believe that our words have too much power, and implying that journaling is a challenge is going to make it feel like an arduous task in your day instead of something that is enriching to your day. We're going to go over what phase of the moon we are in, how to be mindful of it, as well as what we're working in our journal this week. I do want to start off with acknowledging our full moon that just passed. This was the beaver moon, and it was a super moon. So this moon here was the closest that it will be to the earth this whole year. It was bright and shining, and I hope that y'all are prepared for the winter ahead of us. You're ready to move forward into this season without any extra weight on your shoulders. This episode is releasing just as we started the waning gibbous cycle of the moon. And this is the perfect time to be introspective and to release habits that no longer serve you. Be open to what you feel and try, if you can, to put it into practice. It's an exercise to change your mindset into not only respecting yourself, but accepting yourself. And with that, be easy on yourself and be kind to yourself during this. Know that your feelings are just as valid as everyone else's, and you have the right and the duty to yourself to communicate with others kindly if they are disturbing your peace. For our journaling segment this week, I had written challenge in my notes and it tripped me up. Reflect on something that bothered you. What do you wish you had done to stand up for yourself in this situation? Try to be kind in your resolution and mindful of the outcome that you want from that. Focus on releasing old habits of brushing your feelings aside. Take time to focus on the reaction you would like to have going forward instead. Now, this is for your journal. You don't have to share any of this with me or with us here in the comments. I think there's comments on podcasts. I'm not sure. But if you would like to, feel free to write down below how you wish you would have acted in a situation. Maybe there's other people who are dealing with something similar, or somebody who can give you insight and how to react kindly and productively. Next is going to be our variety section. I haven't really thought of a cute name for this, so I do apologize. It's kind of something that is a flexible section. We might talk about a bird during this section and what that represents, and something meaningful and fun about the bird. We might talk about a hobby or something seasonal. This is just a little tidbit segment to get to know each other and to just kind of have fun with. Let me know in the comments what you think about this section, what you think we should do, if we shouldn't do it. I don't know. This is just a short little section for us to connect, really. This week, we're going to be talking about having a hobby. It is literally good for you. It really helps your mood and regulate your mental health. I'm curious what hobbies you guys have. Do you draw? Do you sew? Do you skateboard? I can't even imagine. There's a million things that you could do for a hobby. Is there anything that you're interested in trying before the year ends here? I myself this week was really excited after our move to have time to sit down and draw. I am really excited that I started offering commissions. I never thought that I would be good enough with my art to offer commissions or for people to want me to commission something. So that I'm just really grateful and really happy about that. I do a lot of digital art. Well, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to see it right now. And honestly, this took years of practice and struggle with just being okay at not being really good at drawing. I always loved drawing, but I was never the best, even in my own friend group. And that really kind of stuck with me mentally that, oh, well, I'm not the best artist, so my art isn't good. And I really struggled with comparing myself with my art idols and like seeing their art, being inspired by their art, and then looking at mine and it not being anywhere as good as theirs. But I really think art is quite subjective, and there's something charming about almost everyone's art. If you do draw, I would love to see your art. Please comment that below. If you have an Instagram or something, I would love to follow you. If you're listening here, please, that would mean the world to me. And this little segment's already done. It's just a short, little, cute one. And we're gonna end with a card pull. Now, I was a little reluctant to put this section here, because personally, I would never call myself a witch, and I don't consider myself that. I am simply a little girly who loves nature and Mother Earth, and I respect her and the moon as a higher being. It sounds a little witchy, I know, but I don't use that word. I do want to connect to something deeper within myself, and I believe that we all have the power to shape our future. So the card I drew this week for our episode is from the Work Your Light Oracle card deck. It's by Rebecca Campbell. It is very, very sweet, and it's very appropriate for our podcast. It is all about you and your wisdom and learning about yourself and respecting yourself, helping you connect with yourself around you. The card that I pulled was Get Grounded. I'm going to read the description here for it. It is an action card in this deck, meaning it's going to request us to do something. It is absolutely up to you if you feel like doing that, or if you're not into oracle cards. You totally don't have to listen here. It is okay. But get grounded. You are being called to get grounded, to ensure that your luminous field is clear and your inner well is full. If you are not grounded, it is all too easy to get swept up under people's energy and mistake it for your own. Your boundaries will become blurred as you are absorbing the energies around you and struggling to define what is their stuff and what is yours. If you pulled this card, you are very likely an empath or a highly sensitive person and need time alone to fill up your well, balance your energy, and get grounded. There are two types of people: those who draw their energy from others and those who draw their energy from within. Reflect on which one you are and carve out time each day to ensure your well is being replenished. Being sensitive is a superpower, but like all powers, it needs to be nurtured in order to be fulfilled. It is easy to get swept up in the higher frequency energies that are swirling around the planet. The quickest and most efficient way of clearing all of these from your field is to ground yourself by connecting with Mother Earth. There are many ways to get grounded. One of the most powerful ones is to practice earthing by connecting to the power of Mother Earth. Spend time in nature, put your hands on a tree, or walk barefoot on the earth. So, our action is to do something to get grounded and to connect with the earth. And whether or not you vibe with the oracle cards or tarot cards or any of that, I hope that you have plenty of time to give to yourself, to replenish yourself, and to relax. And if you stayed to the end, I am so grateful. It means a lot to me. This is so vulnerable for me to be doing, but I'm so excited and I'm so passionate about it, I think. Yeah, thanks for being here, and I should be posting every Thursday. We'll see how well I do with that, considering with that chaos and spontaneousness comes my trouble with commitment. But it is my goal to be here with you guys each week and to share something meaningful with y'all.